Out here, you'll notice a difference from wherever you came. Villagers make everything they own, and they only make what they need. There's thought and care in every detail. Families past, present, and future learn the same techniques. This is their soil. These are their roots. When I first came to India, I saw villagers leave their homes for markets days away, pulled by the promise of jobs and growing cities. Yet the story could have a different ending, a reimagination of what a prosperous village could look like. So we had an idea. We brought computers and scanners into these villages. We trained artists to turn paper into pixels so that a painting made once could pay over and over. We're building a market that's larger and more vibrant than any city could offer, in communities connected to growing what they eat and making what they own. When I see a work of ours on a wall, a world away, I think about how far this work has traveled and I smile. Every piece we sell is a window to a thoughtful, creative world, and that's a good view to share.
Hi, my name is Rebecca, and this is Macaulay. We're Roots Studio, a for-profit company that connects isolated artists to any market in the world through digitization. So in my 6 years of living and working in India, one of the things that really stood out to me was how many artists live in the village, but even more so, how much they depended on art as a form of livelihood. This is really surprising to me because as an artist from the US, generally art is not taken seriously, it's seen as a hobby or leisure. But in India alone, in fact, the craft economy supports up to 200 million people. Meanwhile, there's a $77 billion market that constantly new designs every single quarter, yet they're completely disconnected to these content producers. Why is this? Imagine if you're an artist living 7 hours away from a tier 3 town. How hard would it be to get your painting across unpaved roads to a quality control center, to a warehouse, and finally to the hands of an end consumer? So at Roots Studio, we solve this, and we do so through digitization. We set up computers and scanners in these villages. We train our artists how to scan in a high-fidelity 600 DPI design. It gets stored into an external hard drive, which is then shipped to our partners in Bangalore, who upload it where there's more Wi-Fi. And this allows consumers to see the designs from any part of the world. When they order a design, then this is produced by our partners in Texas and Ohio, who drop ship it to our customer. Every quarter, we're able to return profits to the community, 50% to Roots and 50% to the community. Within that 50%, 75% is to the artist, and 25% to a community fund, where they decide how they want to invest in those funds to better their village. So this model is unlike anything that's been done before. What's been done over and over again is traditional craft venture models. But for them, because they have physical objects, their costs of products scale proportionally with reach, because just imagine how difficult the whole supply chain is. But through digitization, not only can we increase the scope of types of designs that we can get, but through licensing, a two-dimensional design can be placed onto virtually any object, from fabrics to stationery and to even media licensing. More importantly, we have a significant cost advantage over our competitors because we're not moving any physical objects around. This enables us to save 60% in our costs. Most importantly, through digitization, we create an unrivaled transparency between the artist and the consumer, because we cut out all the middlemen who would have taken a cut of the profit. This gives them more agency to be able to have a handle on where their artwork is going and receive a larger proverbial pie of the profits that they deserve to receive. So in our 2 years of operations, the most important days is when the artists get paid, because they finally realize that there's someone across the world that's willing to pay for the artwork and reinforces their confidence as artists. So we completely wrapped our theory of change around sustainably increased income. We look at incremental profits return, the total artists collaborated with, the number of art that they've uploaded into our repository, and lastly, the percentage of artists that continue to progress in the career instead of abandoning the form of the career and leaving the village for an urban job, a large source of poverty in the rural areas. We've measured ourselves against these metrics over the last 2 years, and we found that we can get 4 times the incremental profit. We've collaborated with over 600 artisans across 6 villages in India alone, and with expansion into rural Indonesia, Panama, and we also have over 700 pieces uploaded into our repository. And through surveys, we've seen that there's a 5% increased interest in becoming an artist, especially coming from the ages of 10 to 16 in the villages that we work in.
To reach this incredible level of impact that Rebecca just described, we had to validate a core premise of the Roots business model. And that was that there was a global marketplace for digital art. And I'm happy to say that in our past 12 months of operation, we have been able to do just that. We have sold over 1,000 pieces to 500 customers and generated over $30,000 of revenue in our first 3 months of operations. And it's important to note that we are selling these units at a market price 5 to 10 times higher than they would receive in their local economy, precisely because it's a global marketplace with a higher willingness to pay. We've dug into our past year of sales analytics to discover just what is the Roots value proposition to our customers. And we've determined that there are 4 distinct individuals that attract to Roots Studio. The first of which is corporate gifting. We've sold to the Dollar Shave Club, to Draper University, and to several business schools across the country. These institutions are interested not just in our high quality of our artwork, but in the ability to co-brand and to demonstrate their corporate social responsibility. The second customer is that of interior designers, who are interested in our large repository of artwork so that they can maintain their status in the market and keep up to date with moving trends. And then finally, our third and fourth personas are in art sales and stationery. Individual customers who appreciate the high quality and contemporary nature of our artwork and the fact that we are doing something different in the craft market. We're bringing 2D crafts into a market traditionally dominated by textiles, jewelry, and carvings. With these personas in mind, we've developed an aggressive 2-staged marketing plan moving forwards. For the next several years, we're going to be focusing almost exclusively on B2B sales. And we're doing this because corporate gifting and interior design have a much higher lifetime value and a much lower cost of customer acquisition than an individual consumer. They also have the strong potential to partner with us and thus have reoccurring sales over a longer lifetime. After we've firmly established ourselves in the B2B market, then we will begin to expand into B2C sales in order to maintain our brand. To meet this aggressive marketing goal, we are hoping to raise, and planning to raise, I should say, $500,000 in the next 2 years. That money will be used to hiring a sales team, to supporting our current operations, and to also expanding the artist communities that we work with. Rebecca has just returned from Jordan. When I say just, I mean 4 days ago. The girl is still probably jet-lagged right now. And while she was there, she was working with artists in Syrian refugee camps and recognized that like the artists that we're working with in India and Indonesia, they also rely on art as a livelihood and have a limited mobility to spread their craft and to get that prices up on the global market. So with that in mind, and to reach those goals, we have teams both in the United States and in India. We recognize that core to our mission of impact, we want to have boots on the ground to support the communities in their home locations. To that end, we have a community mobilizer in India, and we hire villagers to support and curate artwork on the ground in those communities. We also find it very important that our team here in the United States is not only operationally excellent, but incredibly familiar with the struggles that the artists are facing in their communities. Rebecca and I have a combined 12 years of experience in the developing world, and she is an artist, and I have experience building a logistics startup in East Africa, so I have knowledge of the startup world here in the United States and in the struggles with last mile delivery. You've all heard of Picasso, Monet, Renoir, artists who had the connections and were urban enough to get their art on a global market. Imagine all those artists who didn't have that chance. With Roots Studio, we find those artists and bring them to a global marketplace. We digitize to discover. Thank you.
was here, she would tell you I'm the most arts challenged person in the room.
Oh, great.
So, but unfortunately, you're stuck with me as a judge, so you really got to bring this down to my level. I understand the supply side of the business model. The piece I'm missing is the demand. Pick one of these 4 segments that you laid out. Tell me about the pain point. What problem are you solving for them? And then tell me how big that space is.
Okay.
All right, I can take that one. So the first 2 that I'm going to focus on will be the corporate gifting and the interior design. And I'm focusing on that because of the value that they give to us as an operation, because that's where our initial focus for these first few years are. As you can see, as I mentioned, they are focused in the fact that we have high quality and really beautiful products, as I hope you'll be able to verify, they're sitting in front of you. And that offers value, but they're also interested in our mission. So for corporate gifting, it's really valuable for them to be able to display some sort of CSR along with their products. And so the fact that we offer them the ability to co-brand, to partner, and that we have a direct connection with the artists and can share that mission is really incredibly valuable. Unlike a lot of other craft ventures, Rebecca's talked to almost all of these artists. She's on a WhatsApp group with them. So we can get their story, have gotten their story, and communicate it directly to improve their mission. For interior designs, it actually really is also about the fact that we have a very large and rapidly expanding repository for artwork. So we have artists who can submit their pieces in under 48 hours, and they're uploading several pieces every single month. And so we have the ability to not only have all this artwork at the touch of our fingertips through our digital repository, but to gain it very quickly. And so for interior designers, that's valuable because their trends change every quarter at maximum. And in terms of value, we're looking at multi-billion-dollar markets here. Corporate gifting is around $16 billion, and interior design, I think, is around $8 or $9 billion.
I'm going to piggyback on that because I actually had a question about the supply side. So if you can go back to the slide where you show your social impact is contingent upon how many of these artists you reach and get into your network.
Absolutely.
And I'm just curious about how you're thinking about scaling that on the ground and how you find and identify the right artists to be part of this community.
Right. So the communities that we started off with partly was just because I've been out in India for a long time working on the rural side. The way that we were able to kind of scale it up is to identify a community mobilizer that can access and build rapport with the community. Generally, we find that a lot of our growth is coming organically from these communities because there's finally an avenue and distribution channel. So breaking into the community isn't actually that difficult because it's an open distribution channel to a foreign market for them. So this community mobilizer that we already have right now, but we'll continue to also add on in the various countries that we have, will be sensitive to the dynamics that are happening to make sure that the structures that we put in are in place and also amenable to what the community wants. Yeah, so it's mostly through the mobility of that. And then we communicate a lot through our WhatsApp groups as well.
And I'll piggyback on that a little bit. It takes about 1 to 2 trips to set up the artist communities and to get the feel for not only setting up the digitization centers, which are printers and scanners, but to identify the individual that we want to train to help the artists. And so we have several stages of interaction. So we interface directly with the artist at first, and then we have the community mobilizer and the in-village hire, so we're maintaining a direct line of contact. But once we make those initial first visits and maintain that contact, the costs are significantly reduced, and we can have a more remote presence and focus on developing the next community.
Related note on the social impact, you mentioned the 50-50 split in profit on the back end. And I'm curious how that's hard-coded into your business. What does the cap table look like? What's the governance structure? Who owns the company? If whoever owns it gets hit by a bus, how do we make sure the artisans are going to get their money? I see a lot of risk there because I'm not sure who's advocating for the artisans themselves.
Okay. Well, I can bring up the artist agreement if you want to speak to that.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So right now, the communication is happening in terms of having a more direct connection between sales and also the artists, which is one of the feedback that we got from the artists during our first year of operations, is that we have a link that they can open up to see the number of sales per quarter. So one of the things that we do every quarter is that they have a good understanding of where their artwork is going and how much has been sold. The second is with every single artist that we work with, we have an artist agreement. We act as an independent agent currently with the artists, and they retain the copyrights in the country that they are from because they deserve to. But within the markets that we sell to, which is primarily US and Europe, we own the copyrights to that. The wirings right now just kind of happen on a quarterly basis, so we're trying to hard code. Right now it's all kind of manually done. We have an Excel spreadsheet, and then that's all counted up. But as we scale up, hopefully there's a way to kind of have automatic disbursements to each of the individual accounts. One of the challenges that we face quite a bit is just the variability in transferring money across different borders, and especially as we scale beyond the Indian context, there's always nuances from country to country.
And to further go along your question about how is this hard-coded in business, and God forbid what happens if someone gets hit by a bus. Right now, the artist licensing agreement takes a lot of that risk off the table because they do maintain the copyright in their home country. There are absolutely ways that we can further hard code this into the business, and we've had a lot of conversations with lawyers to ensure that that does happen, but it is still a work in progress.
So there's a significant upfront investment in these trips to the villages and building the relationship, also providing the scanner and ensuring there's access to power and so on. I mean, how many works of art do you have to sell from a village before you've recovered your investment?
So the upfront cost for a village is around $6,000. We've been fortunate so far that it aligns with a lot of the work that we do outside of Root Studio, so we've been able to supplement and pass along some of those costs. But in order to break even from one village, we have to sell around 300 pieces of art.
But the all-inclusive, what we call kind of design center costs to do a Lenovo computer, a flatbed Epson scanner, a LaCie hard drive, and the postal cost to send these things back and forth is about $1,000.
I'm struggling to understand the innovation. And having lived in India shortly, the question is, would somebody choose to put food on the table first or buy art from your experience?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question?
I mean, if you're targeting the rural Indian community,
yeah.
The basic question comes in, will they want to put food on the table first or buy an art set to sell?
So I can actually answer that very well, and I think that that goes into the core of the Roots business model. So right now, the artists that we're engaging with are trying to sell their artwork to other individuals that are making that choice. They're selling to other members in rural communities who are choosing between art and food on the table. What Root Studio does is we take our artwork and we bring it to a global marketplace where people are fortunately not having to make that decision. So our customers, as you can see highlighted here, are based primarily in the US and the UK. So these are luxury items, and by digitizing, we're taking those products and bringing them to a market that has the willingness to pay and the disposable income to pay for them.
Do you have a sense of the average income per year of your existing artists?
Yes.
Kind of before your intervention?
Yes. So we actually commit to working with artists that earn below $1,000 per year per household. Usually, the villages that we work in, it's anywhere between $680 to $800 for annual household income. We have the option of working with more developed artists who are beyond that income range, and we've certainly, there's always a struggle to kind of curate higher, but for us, because we are first and foremost, our mission is hard-coded to be supporting the prosperous village, we always stick to artisans that are earning below $1,000.
So it sounds like you guys are doing other things on the side while getting this started, which I totally understand, but at what point would you quit your day jobs and do this full time?
June 30th is the cutoff for both of us.
Yeah. So I actually was working on this full time, and then I was able to be generously offered a fellowship through the Tata Foundation, which is a large conglomerate in India, that helps me also be able to partner with the government of India and also the World Bank. And as any of you know, working in the Indian context, bureaucracy is something that's very difficult to fight on your own. So I find that to actually have a lot of added help to have both their funding and also government support on the ground.
Yeah, we've been fortunate. We're both affiliated with MIT. Rebecca's a student there, and I'm a research fellow, and so we've leveraged those existing resources to be supported by Legatum, Echoing Green, and several other foundations within that area. But we're both leaving the university at the end of June, and we'll be continuing full-time with this.
Sorry, I didn't see exactly your website, but if I go on your website and I would like to buy something like this, is it clear to me who is doing, the people is doing, and also who is liking this? I mean, there is a community of people liking from one side and the handcrafter or the other side that is visible to me, or is it just a product?
Yeah, it's visible to both so what we do is if you go on our website, all our pieces are named after the artist's first and last name. We do this so that not only does it credit the artists, but also builds a reputation for them as well.
Okay, so this could be also a way to invest in the market. I mean, people not only that buy this product, but they like to support an idea. No? And so I can be connected with some other people that they, like me, they want to support the idea.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.